41 part 3 of Kenya's premier sports video podcast, the 3 Quarters podcast. Jump onto the hashtag Road to Japan to support the Kenya Symbols as they are still looking to qualify for the Rugby World Cup in 2019. And as we are all about promoting sports and sports travel, we've teamed up with Moron Sports Travel to give you this amazing offer for the Dubai Sevens on the 1st and 2nd of December. So for only $999 US, you get to enjoy the full Dubai experience. That is your desert safaris, your nighttime barbecues, and your Dhow cruise. This and much more coming up on your screen. I'm Jimmy Duffield.
This is Ngashi, official noisemaker.
I'm Jerry Ngoose, Kenyana.
Now, starting on a little downer, Kenya lost the right to host the 2018 African Nations Championships.
Oh, I don't know why. We talked about it 2 episodes ago, I believe, on how we might or might not be ready for this. And clearly enough, we weren't at all. And it's sad that once the first time the officials were here to inspect the venues, the chairman for the FKF, one Nick Mwendo, went very vocal about how we'll be ready and all. Come the second time when the second vice president was here, when they had the meeting in Accra, it was taken away from us. This is not the first time. This happened again back in 1996, where we lost it and the tournament moved to South Africa. This is a tournament, I remember this, 2 years ago, Rwanda, a small country that is behind us even development-wise. They hosted this tournament successfully. 2 years ago, that's 2015. They had a very successful tournament. Why we only had one venue ready, of which the organizing committee did not have to do much to it. This was already done by Mwangi with his team for the World Under 18 Championships. So it's sad that we are still having such small problems. When we made this bid a long time ago, work should have started a long time ago. If anything, we should be having now the likes of the Kenya Premier League games being hosted in these venues to test it out, to see what needs to be done, what needs to be tweaked. So it's such a sad situation and very bad for Kenya. We might end up even facing some bans from FIFA.
Well, that's
of this.
Yeah, that's like another case of things happening on the 11th hour.
That's true. I mean, just a quick correction to Ngoose. In 1996 was actually the African Cup of Nations that went to South Africa. This is now like the tier 2 of the African Cup, for lack of a better word. But anyway, again, we talked about it 2 episodes ago, and I was very vocal. I said I don't think we were going to host this thing. I thought CAF were going to revoke our status in terms of being the host nation. And the first thing I'd like to say is that Kenyans need to wake up, because we keep on being blinded by this thing about government funding everything. The issue here is not government. The issue is FKF. They were the ones, because I like 2 examples. Government was also involved in the IAAF World Junior Championships, right? Yeah. How come that worked out? How come this one did not work out, right? So government's work is just to provide the funds. The issue is about the local organizing committee to organize these tournaments. They won the bid in 2013. Goodness, IAAF was handed over to Kenya just before the Cali World Championships in 2015, I guess, or 2016, 2015. Sorry, yes,
right, 15.
Right,
yes.
And then they were able to pull out this. Come on, guys, it's very unfortunate. And the saddest thing is that guys will quickly forget about this.
That's the problem in Kenya.
That's the problem in Kenya. And I was having a discussion with some guys, and you know the saddest thing is, and it's general by the way, it's not only in sports management, this mentality that people have in Kenya that government has to do everything for you. The reason why the West is very developed in sports is because corporate got into running of sports, and that all government does is just set a base.
Yes.
Right? Everything else is done by the corporate organizations, and these things are run like businesses. If we have these shambolic people managing, there was a discussion about this thing on TV on the weekend. There was not a single person of sports. It was only politicians talking about this. That's where the problem starts.
Yes.
So you bring in politicians to run sports. They're not passionate about these sports, or people who are looking for political careers later on in life. Then they start with managing this, and they bungle up the whole process. So that's where the problem is coming from. Let's not lie to each other and say that FKF needs to be taken to task.
Yes.
We said this when the Volleyball Federation was unable to send our girls for the Grand Prix.
Yes.
We said about this, these people need to be taken to task. The budget has been allocated. Why hasn't this thing been done?
And just as you mentioned before, the problem is we will forget.
Yeah.
Back, I think we'll stop now with us guys. We keep on reminding these people that remember this date. They did not manage to host this, so we should take them to task and remind guys, do not vote these guys in. Come next when they have their AGMs and the works, the elections, that we shouldn't be having such people holding office. That's true.
All right. Yeah. So on Sunday we had the Berlin Marathon, where Kipchoge actually won, which is good for Kenya. Yeah. But he didn't manage to set a record. Yeah,
it is sad that he couldn't break Dennis Kimoto's record set back in 2014. I think we're all gunning for the record. Everyone was going for the record. The win was assured, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, but sadly, as they say that it was a matter something to do with the weather conditions were not favorable for them to break the record. And even the ladies, the women's side was won by our very own Gladys Cherono. Yeah. This was her second win, winning a Berlin Marathon. And remember, Kipchoge is the real Olympic champion, yes. The marathon, and as well as London, yes. Last year. Yeah. So it's a good showing for Kenya. Big up.
I must add that Berlin has actually been a very good course for breaking the world record. Yes. That's why Patrick Macau broke the record. So we hope that maybe next year he'll get a chance to do it.
There's a young Ethiopian mix. Yeah. He came in second. We should be wary of him.
Yeah. Let's wait and see how that's going to go. Yeah.
All right, so on to the football lovers. Premier.
Yeah, this is week 6 of the Premier League. Couple of interesting games. Of course, Chelsea thumping. Sorry, I beg your pardon. Man City thumping Crystal Palace 5-0, and Chelsea thumping Stoke 4-0. But I think the game of the weekend was Leicester versus Liverpool, which was played at the King Power Stadium, 3-2 to Liverpool. It was a very interesting game. Jamie Vardy missing a penalty that would have equaled them. But I think it was a good showing from Liverpool. Especially, I liked how Jordan Henderson played. You get the feeling that when Henderson was acquired by Liverpool, he was actually taking over from Steven Gerrard because he has some sort of command in the midfield like Steven Gerrard. But yes, it was a good showing by Liverpool, but I also must commend Leicester the way they played that game, end-to-end stuff. And I don't think Leicester, at least for top 6, not winning the championship like they did 2 years ago.
That will not happen again. That was a Cinderella story.
Yeah, but top 6, I think guys should actually be looking at them.
Yeah. All right, now moving on to basketball. Carmelo Anthony was traded to Oklahoma City Thunder after a 7-year period of being the face of Knicks basketball.
Yeah. And those, I think, he has a couple of things to say.
Yeah. Well, I think it's now the norm. The creation of super teams, it's now become a norm. Considering, look at how Golden State is looking, look at how OKC now is looking. Yeah, that's more or less a super team. I believe he's coming in to replace Serge Ibaka. Yeah, because they already brought in Paul George, who's going to play kind of like KD, Kevin Durant, who will move to Golden State, and then it takes the pressure off Russell Westbrook, I believe. Because it was all about Westbrook the last season, the reigning MVP. It was all about him. But considering when he was in the Nuggets, I believe, he only managed to get to the Western Conference Final back in 2009. Yeah, Western Conference, but they could not have gone any further. That was Kobe's time. Yeah. So yeah, it's a good move. It's some good options for him. I'd like to see how the clashing of egos will come in to play, because he's never been a number 2 to anyone. He's always been the number 1 guy of the franchise. So apart from the Team USA, of course, and there are bigger names there, personalities. So I'd like to see how it pans out. But it's a good move for Oklahoma City Thunder. And it may be tough now for Spurs, especially with the Western Conference. It's going to be tough for Spurs, I believe.
I mean, as Gus has mentioned, he's a 10-time All-Star, and he's only been to the Western Conference Final once in a team also that had J.R. Smith and Chauncey Billups in 2009. But just a bit of history in this situation. People who follow the NBA will know that he was frustrated at the New York Knicks, primarily because of former president of basketball operations for the Knicks, Phil Jackson. Turns out he might be an excellent coach, but he's a very poor executive. But anyway, he was frustrated, and all that resulted in this move that has seen him going to the Oklahoma City Thunder. He goes to partner up with Russell Westbrook and Paul George, He'll release some offensive load from Russell Westbrook, but I don't expect to see a lot of him in terms of defense because he's 33 years. Now, the trick comes here. He's not going to give you much defensively. I think that's where Paul George needs to be versatile. And Paul George needs to play a role like Klay Thompson played at Golden State Warriors, where it's going to be focused more on defense because he's an excellent defender. Then leave the offensive load to Russell Westbrook and Carmelo Anthony. Bring in the fact that I think I do. Westbrook also has to play a role like Dwayne Wade played in 2010, where he takes a backseat because he's the franchise player, but he takes a backseat and allows all these egos to come into play. I do believe in Bill Donovan, and I think he's going to do a good job at Oklahoma City Thunder. So as Ngusi is saying, I think that the two teams to watch out, OKC and Golden State Warriors, come the next season.
All right, now in the bonus segment, the question is, do you think we as Kenya should start naming teams sort of after the cities or after towns like other countries do?
Yeah, I think before we even get to the naming bit, the guys need to start relating to the teams that are within their locality. I think it started off well with football. I'd say it's not so much, yes, because a bulk of the teams are still within the city, but I'd like to see it devolve further. When it comes, let me bring closer to home in rugby. Rugby, you've seen it happen with Nakuru, RFC, and now they're being sponsored by Top Fry, and they have a second team, now Menengai Oilers. We've seen Cabras coming up, they're based in Kakamega. We've seen the likes of Homeboys now, they're moving to Ngong, which is a satellite city to Nairobi. We'd like to see more of this happening so that it gives us a sense of pride from where the team is coming from, and at the same time it builds the locality itself. If I were to start a team, let's say in Marsabit, a rugby team in Marsabit, I'll definitely need a pitch there. I need a stadium. That's job creation already. Yeah, we'll get fans then, the game spreads further. It will be good for the game, for the expansion of the game, and for the locality as well, and revenue collection, of course. At the end of the day, it's also about money. Yeah, so I think we need to devolve the game much further and get guys to identify with teams from where they live within.
I mean, first thing is like what Ngusa says, it opens up remote markets. I think of the closest example to us is South African rugby. You have the Bulls playing in Pretoria, Loftus Versfeld. You have Lions playing at Ellis Park in Johannesburg. You have Western Province playing in Cape Town. You have the Sharks playing in Durban, you see? And it opens up remote markets and it gets guys identifying with these games. And a case in point, I always talk about Cabra's captain, George Nyambua. He finished high school, 2013, Bungoma High School, and just went to Cabras. Previously, you had these guys having to come to Nairobi to continue their rugby career. So you see already what Cabras has been able to do in Kakamega. So you open up the market there. Infrastructural development, as Musa said, because you have to build these stadiums there. Some sense of pride. I always tell guys a story. I was fortunate enough to watch a game at a pub, a national pub next to the Emirates Stadium, and I saw how much North Londoners identify with Arsenal, and I kept on asking myself, how come our people don't identify as much with local teams? So it brings in some sort of passion or identification with that team, and it can only be positive for us. And Kenyans and black people in general are very athletic. Therefore, devolve these games down there and you'll pick up some talent. I mean, when we went to Western Kenya, we were able to bring in the big guys into rugby, and we forgot the pudding guys in Nairobi. So, kick and casters. So I think it's a good move, and maybe we should start thinking about going that way, but it'll only be driven by the corporate institutions that are based in these countries, in these counties. Yeah.
All right, what do you guys think? Do you think you agree with these two, or do you have another opinion? Remember, you can follow us on Instagram, like our page on Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Jemima Duffield.
This is Ngashi, official noisemaker.
I'm Jerry Goose, Kenyana.
See you next week for episode 42.
Cheers, Nash.
Jump onto the hashtag Road to Japan to support the Kenya's full Dubai.
It's the motorbike, I know.
Full Dubai experience over and above the rugby, which is your.
I know.
Why are you laughing?